Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going over facilitation of collaboration online. And there's many ways to collaborate online, but because we're kind of trying to transition to online or to remote teaching and learning, I just want to keep it simple. That's really what we're trying to do right now, is keep the tools simple, keep the processes simple as much as possible. So the only thing that I'm going to go over today is the discussion tool. But if you're interested in other ways to collaborate, I would say, my best suggestion is always to keep it simple early on. And using discussions would be a good way to start. But as you feel more comfortable in the online environment and your students become more comfortable, you may wish to, add or increase the different ideas of collaboration. So I'm only going to be concentrating on discussions today. So first thing I'd like to do is just make sure that you're all logged into Laulima. The other thing that we want to do is just realize that when you get a brand new, I call it vanilla version of Laulima, it comes with a set of default tools. And one of those tools is discussion and private messages. So you should already have that tool in your course menu on the left-hand side. So I would like you to go ahead and click on that. And we're going to talk about the layout a little bit. You have what are called categories, and the categories in this case are main and other. So you have some categories here, main and other, and inside those categories you have two preset forums, and those are called questions, class discussions, and student lounge. So those are preset for you. What we're going to be dealing with today is the class discussions. So just for hands-on, if you want to follow along, we're going to go in and post a discussion, and we'll do so in the class discussion forum. So you can go ahead and click on class discussions. Okay, when you first get into a forum at the beginning, you'll see that it's empty. So you need to do what's called a new topic. So the three categories we've talked about, or the three keywords that we've talked about today are category, forum, and then inside the forum is a topic. And you can have a number of topics that will be throughout the semester. So we're going to create a new topic by clicking on New Topic. Okay, when you come up to the new topic page, you get the opportunity to put in a subject. So we could be having a discussion on the fall of the Roman Empire. Okay, so that's the subject of our discussion. Now, inside the text editor, we would then be putting in there what the discussion is going to be about. So this is where, think about your face-to-face class and think about your in-class discussions. How do you start those? You're standing up in front of the class, you're talking about, you've already given them the lecture information or the content, they've read the chapter. So all now you're trying to do is get their feedback and get their collaboration with each other. And share information. So you could just put a little bit of instruction in there to kind of start the conversation just as you would in your face-to-face class. Then you would go in and put your expectations down. What are you expecting them to give you back? You might give them a couple of questions that you want them to reply back to. And then usually what's really nice is having the students, as they do in the face-to-face class, to share ideas, because other people might have different information. This is asynchronous, meaning that they can come in anytime. It's not live. It's any time of the day, night, weekends, whatever. They can come in, read the discussion, and then they can type in their reply. This allows you to do a lot more than chat. So let's say, for instance, in your discussion, you start the discussion and you're wanting the students to go out on the internet and find resources. So within discussions, then they could come back and they could insert pictures they found, they could insert links that they found. So it's much richer capabilities than the chat. Chat is synchronous, meaning it's live, but that means everybody's got to be there at the same time on the same day, and who knows what's going to be happening. You know, people might be sick, you know, they're not going to be able to come on that day at that time. So that's why asynchronous is better in this cases, because it gives them time to go off and think about, and actually you actually get a much richer discussions in these in-class or online options than you do in class a lot of times. It kind of depends on how you structure your discussion as to whether, you know, you build in that engagement. One instructor that I've worked with before, I've had, she's had some really good results with her discussions, because what she does is she builds in some type of course, conversation where there's like compare and contrast of some things. Like she has two pictures and she says, compare and contrast. And so, for instance, one of her pictures was a statue of an Egyptian leader, pharaoh. And then she had another picture that was a different type of leader, and it was all style, how they were portrayed in the statue. And then she asked them to compare these different styles. And then at the very end, she had them vote. Okay, if this was going to be your leader, which one would you vote for? And then the students were able to vote for their leader, and then she came back and told them what the results were. So just kind of ideas like that, where you kind of build in some engagement and some other ideas to keep them interested. And a lot of times, if part of the engagement is having them go out and find resources for you, pictures, websites, stories, information, that becomes very interesting to the students, and they want to come back and they want to see what the others found. So there's just all sorts of different ways to build in. Okay, so in the discussion, as I said, you would just put in your instructions, maybe get a little bit, you know, prime the pump. In other words, you prime the pump. If you have an opinion, sometimes faculty do that. Sometimes they say, no, I don't want to do that. I want them to have their own information. I don't want to color. Everybody's different. You know, it depends on, too, what you're talking about, what the subject matter is. So you would put your instructions here. And then as we scroll down, one of the things that I would like to point out that is extremely important, you're going to all of this effort to create this discussion. In the future, you do have the capability to do what's called an import from site. And that means that everything that you're developing inside this course site right now, next semester, you can then ask Laulima to take this information, this content, and import it over into the new empty site. So that way you don't have to recreate the wheel. Everything will come over. The only thing you have to do is freshen things up, meaning if something has changed in the topic, if a website has changed that you put in the instructions area or the discussion area. If, of course, the dates are going to change, right? In your open dates, closed dates, if you choose to use those. So that's really the only difference. Now, here's the thing, though. If you are interested in doing that, or even if you're not thinking about doing that, I would still encourage you to check mark I'll reuse. Because if you don't do that, then when you ask Laulima to import your site over, it will not import your discussions. Now keep in mind, it's only importing the discussion and your information. It is not bringing over previous student postings, okay? It's just the raw information that you put up there. But you're that much farther ahead, right, with coming up with discussions. So as far as the open and closed dates, that's really up to you. Some faculty like to go ahead and create their discussions ahead of time, and then you don't have to remember putting it on your calendar and reminding you. But I do realize the situation that you're in now, you may just be doing like week to week. So, you know, just to keep in mind that you could set it open ahead of time and set your due dates here. And then here's the other option here. I talked about hiding things. You can hide until open, right? So you set it to a particular time in the future and then hide it until it's open, right? The sticky and then the announce, those are useful for if you're going to do instructions in a particular, let's say that you create a forum and you're going to call it research paper, okay? And so you go into the research paper forum, and the first topic in that forum would be research paper instructions. You always want those to be at the top, because what's going to happen is as people post discussions, they are in chronological order, chronological order, And so what that means is that the newest one will pop up to the top. Whoever posted to a recent topic, that one will pop up to the top. So what you can do is you can do a sticky or an announce, and those two stay up near the top. Okay, and then you do see that you have the ability to attach. So let's say you're doing this discussion and there might be some reason that you want to attach a file. You can do that, and they'll have the ability to see it. Okay, so once you're finished creating this discussion, you would just click post, and you don't have to necessarily have an open or close date. It's not mandatory or required, so I won't do that right now. So here is our topic that we just created, and of course if we put a lot more instruction in here, it would be there. And you have a post reply up here in the corner. So when the students come in, they're going to read your instructions or your prompt, and they're going to click on post reply. And then I'll just go ahead and click on post reply. So then what it does is it pulls up a box that looks very similar to what you just saw as the design part of it, the starting the conversation. So this is a reply, okay? Now, because this is ourselves, we'll see ourselves, but you can see how it goes underneath. Now, this particular tool, again, like I said, is chronological. So that means as students come in and they post replies, it's going to be in that order. Okay, so first off, if you look right up here, this is a fake class that I have here to show as examples, but you see that we have a class discussion forum. Then it's telling us over here to the right that there are 12 topics and there are 27 posts over here. So if I go into the class discussion, I can then see what are each of the topics. So we had the rise of the Roman Empire. That would have been one of them that would have been in our list. But if I click on test announce here, we can then see what was the topic and then what were the replies. And I have some fake guest users. So you could imagine that the guest user ID here would then be the name of your students. Yeah? And then you could just scroll down and you would be able to read their replies. And I would say to keep it simple, there is a way to grade within the discussions that then goes into gradebook. But what I would recommend right now, just for this transitional period, is to go ahead and just make and we'll talk about gradebook. We're going to cover gradebook later today. I would just set up a gradebook item and then say it's for this discussion, and then just keep track of the grades that you're wanting to give the students, and then go into gradebook and put that grade in. But it is possible to have gradebook automatically send the grade, but there's just a little bit of extra setting things up. So one thing that we want to keep in mind is that down here at the bottom, on every Laulima screen, it doesn't matter where you are, what tool you're in, at the very bottom of the course menu, there is a help button to answer your question about how do you edit a topic. So if I go back to my experiment here, or my demo. Okay, so I'm going to go back into the class discussions because that was the forum where I had my topic, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. And I go back into there, and you see over here to the right, this is the one that you posted, right at the very top. Over to the right, there's an edit. Okay, so that's really online collaboration, easy, fast, simple collaboration. To get that started. And then, maybe as the semester goes, if you're starting to feel more comfortable, you can contact the Hilo team. We can talk to you about other options that you might want to try. But I would say right now, just keep it simple. Don't stress you guys out. Don't stress the students out. Let's just all kind of, use the simpler tools and everything.